Alrighty guys, so Sasquatch here. Welcome back to the channel. First, like and subscribe. Make sure you get that bell icon ticked too so you get notified of videos. And so here we are guys, the Plateau. The Cariboo Plateau in the Cariboo country. We're going to talk about some really interesting things to do with the origins of life on Earth. As per usual with some of you guys, I'm sure you're probably wondering like where are we going and why? What is the point of all of this, right? There is some really important answers here that are looking to be found about literally the formation of life as we know it. This lake is the richest lake in the world with regards to its phosphate content. So it has the highest concentration of phosphates in the world. And, you know, okay, like, so why do we care, right? Why is that? What does that even mean, first of all, and why is that important? Phosphates are really key for DNA, for the formation of DNA, in particular, the double helix. They combine with sugars, special sugars, and proteins in the DNA, and they allow for DNA to actually form and build itself. So this lake, having this high concentration of phosphates in it, it harkens back to a time when life was first starting out, and so like our DNA, like the human genome, the human double helix DNA, we need phosphates to reproduce, like the replication of your genetic code. Like the reason your DNA is a double helix, and part of the reason why it needs to be in a helix is because when it replicates, it's spin, right? You've seen a DNA strand, like in school there, like in science class, it's spun up, right? Like it's got a twist to it. So when DNA replicates, it will untwist itself and like shoot out another copy of like whatever program it's trying to recreate. But phosphates have a really important job. And it, like, obviously I'm not a biologist, right? This is guys write science, like PhD science papers on this. I'm just giving you guys a rough Sasquatch prospector version of it. But basically why this lake that is the richest phosphate lake in the world is important is because it gives scientists a perfect place to study how DNA literally began to form like in the early stages of life on this planet. So it would be single-celled organisms first, and then over time, like with all these phosphates and, you know, all these other processes going on, DNA strands would be built. Phosphates help form the RNA, which is the, you know, singular pieces, and then those RNAs combine to form an actual double helix. Anything that has DNA, which is pretty much everything, needs phosphates. And this lake that we're about to go to, that is seemingly kind of in the middle of like nowhere, is incredibly rich in phosphates, guys. Alrighty guys, so Sasquatch here we are, Last Chance Lake. Got a really cool one for you today, guys. We're going to talk about phosphates and the origins of life and how the DNA strands came to be, right? Double helix, complex DNA, because they're single-celled organisms, but then there's bears and moose and humans, all those animals, right? Complex life forms. So the phosphates in this lake are the highest in the world, and they're responsible for the literal formation, scientists believe, of DNA as we know it. Alrighty guys, so we're doing the hike. Why not, eh? When do you get to see stuff like this? Just this last little chunk. And for any of you guys that want to drive out here, this is the dirt road. You could, like I said, you totally do it. Just bring a 4x4 and maybe a chainsaw for that tree there. But just around here, this lake, this is where in the summertime, lots of science going on over here. Oh, there's an old cabin. Look at that. That's cool. Maybe from back in the day. Because they used to mine soda here too. This was a soda mine. That might be an old prospecting cabin from way back in the day. There's a tower over there too. So this is it, guys. Last Chance Lake. The source of entirety of advanced life on the planet. It's pretty crazy too. Like, it's the most unsuspecting place like you'd ever imagine for something like this to be. And it's only a few feet deep. It's not very deep. Richest phosphate lake in the world, guys. See the salt on the bed there? Lots of bugs. Can literally hear them as you walk. Yeah, it's not very deep, guys, but the highest concentration of phosphates in the world. That old tower up there too. More rubble, eh? It's our theme for this trip. There was a whole bunch of different things going on here in the Cariboo region, but salt mining was a big one. Look at these old foundations. There used to be something big here. Bolts. Concrete's not bad. I wonder how old this was when this was built. This old ditch here. Oh, look, there's a ditch. Some kind of ditch. Maybe mining. Water diversion, I don't know, but it goes down into the trees. It comes from here and goes down into the trees. It looks like it was dug. That doesn't look natural. It's too perfect. So I wonder what they were doing here. If they had water, they were using it as a canal, divert water. Another wreck. Yeah, this was like, these were cabins. These were probably prospectors' cabins. Oh, look, they use mud to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Got the windows. Yeah, this is an old cabin. They don't usually last this well. Yeah, like this could be Ontario. It's not super flat here though. Like there's little rolling hills and lots of pine and Douglas fir. If you're gonna do this, guys, when you're coming towards the lake, so basically heading like northeastish, take the left-hand road, the one that has all the deep ruts in it. So we'll go to the Kelly Lake, and then we should be good to head to Pavilion Lake after that. All right, so let's just go for a little walk to Kelly Lake. So it's a campground, guys. Come here in the summertime and go camping. They got like little campsites here, and the lake is really nice. It's got a like that turquoise bluey color. Same as Pavilion, guys. So this is like Pavilion's sister. So they come here and they do scientific research for space. And they literally send astronauts, guys. Astronauts will come up here and they'll go do dives, and they basically go collect stromatolite samples, look at the stromatolites, study the stromatolites. Because then when they go up into space, you know, up in the heavens there, and they're like on Mars or like on an asteroid or like whatever space is going to look like for us in the foreseeable future, they're preparing to be like, how can we recognize life on other planets? What does that look like? Kelly Lake. So this lake and Pavilion Lake are the only two lakes around here. They scoured the area, guys, all through here looking for any other lakes that showed indications of the stromatolites, microbialites, because that's what they think life is going to be like on other planets initially in the first phases. But this is Kelly Lake, guys. It's a beautiful lake. So they'll do diving missions, guys. Because it's altitude, we're at altitude here, diving is trickier. You don't have as much time. It affects your decompression just because the air is thinner, so it causes problems. So you need to use altitude diving practices up here because you're that high up that it matters, and you got to correct for decompression and stuff with the density of the air. And so the microbialites are coral, guys. They're calcium carbonate formations that look kind of like coral. They called stromatolites, and they think that they're cyanobacteria. Microbialite cyanobacteria is what is causing them to form. It's like mud almost. It's like muddy rock. It's made by the sun comes through the lake, hits the bacteria, photosynthesis, all that stuff goes on, and then the effect of all of that is the microbialites. And so NASA, in partnership with the Canadian Space Agency, is studying all of this. They come up every summer, they do research, and for a long time, guys, nobody knew that this was there. This was just another lake in BC. Nobody knew that it was there, but then I'll explain when we get to Pavilion what was going on with that. There's a dive team that found it by accident too. The only two lakes, this and Pavilion, that had microbialites in them. what they've been doing to combat altitude factors affecting decompression due to altitude. They use ROVs and manned submersibles, guys. They have submersibles that they take down. It's a 1 atmosphere and controlled environment in the submersible. So it's like at surface. And then you can basically work as long as you want.
There's nowhere, hey, hey, hey. You could help myself. It's your way, hey, hey, hey. When I'm in sickness and in health.
So here we are, Pavilion Lake. Nice morning sunrise over the lake. Very, very, very special lake, this place. One of the most special lakes in the world, frankly. But it was unsuspecting, guys. It was, for years, Pavilion Lake went completely unnoticed. Everybody just drove past it. Nobody gave it a second thought. And then in the 80s, a guy by the name of Doug Pemberton and the Pescaderos Diving Club out of Vancouver were coming back from a dive, like a dive excursion out near Adams Lake. And they were driving down the sea to sky, and they came upon Pavilion Lake, and it was a hot day, so they decided, we get out and go for a swim, right? Cool down. Nice to get off the road for a bit. So they went and had a swim, and were hanging out and just, taking it easy into Pavilion Lake. And one of the divers looked down and was like, there's coral here. And Doug Pemberton, he was kind of the leader, was like, what do you mean there's coral, right? Because it's a freshwater lake, guys. There shouldn't be coral. It doesn't really make sense for coral. Anyways, so they looked, and then it was confirmed, yeah, okay, there's like some type of coral here. We don't really know what it is. So because they're divers, they got the diving gear out, right? They went and got their diving gear. And then they proceeded to go for a dive in Pavilion Lake to find out what was going on, right? So they went down, dove down. They found these stromatolites, basically. So they're microbialite structures made of calcium carbonate. So basically what the scientists believe, and they've been studying this, NASA, Canadian Space Agency, has been studying the mechanism of action for this. But basically what they think it is cyanobacteria in the lake that are reacting with photosynthesis, and it's causing calcium carbonate to precipitate out of the cyanobacteria and form these almost looks like sedimentary deposits at the bottom of the lake that are like coral shapes, right? And those are called stromatolites. So it's a type of stromatolite microbialites, and these microbialites are really important for showing signs of life on other planets. There's all this talk in the world about space and space exploration, looking for all these planets and life on other planets and asteroids and meteors and stuff. A huge part of that process going forward is like, well, what does life on other planets look like? And it won't necessarily look like it does here. Like you breathe oxygen, water, all the requirements for life that we need. That doesn't just mean outright that every requirement is like that. And the thing about stromatolites is they're usually found in really, really harsh environments, like really salinated water, geothermally active water, not typically in a freshwater lake like this, right? So if you look, like this is just it's a ground-fed freshwater lake. So there's creeks and stuff in Marble Canyon, which is we're in Marble Canyon, but there's creeks and stuff that feed Pavilion Lake from the groundwater. It's ground-fed. And this freshwater lake is one of the only other lakes in the world, freshwater lakes, that has microbialites. Kelly Lake, that is also being studied for microbialites because they scoured the area for like 20-30 kilometers and they looking for any other lakes that had signs of microbialites, and they couldn't find them. There was the only two lakes that had microbialite stromatolites in them were Kelly Lake and Pavilion Lake. So once they discovered this, Doug Pemberton sent the findings to a biologist or a scientist, and initially they thought it was just, not a big deal, nothing to think about it. But then a few years went by, and all of a sudden they realized, like, oh, this is a big deal, guys. This is a way to potentially detect life on other planets, because the way these stromatolites form, they believe that this is how life on other planets would have started. It's the same thing with the phosphates and the DNA in the Last Chance Lake that I was talking about. It's the same concept, but that was all DNA and the genome and how the genome came to be. This is more about just life existing in other environments that are unlike our own. So anyways, the Canadian Space Agency and NASA have a partnership where NASA comes up to Pavilion Lake and Kelly Lake, the Cariboo Region. They take over. You know, they've got all the hotels booked. The science teams going out everywhere, and they'll come out here and they go diving on Pavilion Lake, and they go down and look. And the lake is about 65 meters deep, guys. And stromatolites can be found anywhere from 5 meters down to the bottom. The growth rate for the microbialites is about 0.05 millimeters a year. So they grow really slowly, really slowly. One of the craziest things about them is that they're 2.5 billion years old. Like, there's records going back on the planet when the planet was in a different state that stromatolites used to exist. One of my Lake Superior videos where we're up north looking at the old Lake Superior's old extinct volcanoes, because there's volcanic flows in Lake Superior that are, you know, billions of years old. The stromatolites 2.5 billion years ago were found at Lake Superior. The period in which they were most prevalent was 2.5 billion to 540 million years ago. So long time. But these stromatolites here have been forming in this lake for thousands and thousands of years, guys. 0.05 millimeters per thousand years. That's nothing. It's less than a millimeter per thousand years. And that is just an estimate, but still, even with that, it's crazy. But the astronauts, guys, like people that go to space, will come here to train. So like NASA astronauts come to the Cariboo, and they come to these lakes, and basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach these guys about how to look for life on other planets. So when you go to Mars, what is life gonna look like there? And could potentially it take the form of stromatolites or something similar? And so studying this stuff at Pavilion Lake and Kelly Lake is allowing scientists and astronauts to gain knowledge about future exploration projects, you know, when we do go to Mars or when we do find other planets that are potentially worth exploring. And like I said, for years, nobody thought anything of it. Everybody was just like, oh, well, you know, it's just another one of another, you know, hundreds of thousands of lakes in Canada, right? But no, guys, this lake is very, very special. It's about 20 minutes outside of Lillooet, guys. There's 3 lakes of note in the Cariboo, just to kind of give you guys a general summary of what's been going on. So we've got Pavillion Lake, which is kind of the big one, the OG, as we would say. And then Kelly Lake, that was after they had found Pavillion Lake. And then finally we've got Last Chance Lake, and that was all about the phosphate levels and the forming of the human genome and other genomes and stuff. So it's really interesting, guys, that this is literally a leading training ground for astrobiology, the field of astrobiology and the search for life on other planets. That's the Sea to Sky highway there. And Marble Canyon's geology is a prime example of the accretionary belt as well. So there's lots of really cool stuff going on here. Anyways, people do go diving in the lake, and there's a certain area of the lake where there's a lot of stromatolites. So just be mindful, guys, if you are, you know, coming out in the lake and doing stuff, be really cognizant of that, and please don't touch them, don't interfere with them, right? Let the scientists and the professionals deal with it. Alrighty, guys, so here we are, Chimney Rock. Pretty cool, guys. It's biggest thing about this is it's just a geological formation. That's really cool. It's got a really distinct look. There's a naughty name for it that people like to call it, but I'm not going to mention that just because I don't want to have problems with YouTube. It's slightly inappropriate, but just a quick Google search will tell you the full name. Just look up Chimney Rock, Marble Canyon, and I'm sure they'll get a good chuckle out of it. But anyways, guys, Chimney Rock, it's just a cool geological formation. This is Pavilion Lake. It's spring water, guys. Comes right out of the ground. The lake is fed from the ground. And this is the water, guys, the mysterious water. They don't understand what is in this water that allows for stromatolites to grow. The water here is very hard, very mineralized, so that might have something to do with it. But again, there's a lot of ground-fed lakes in BC, but none of them have stromatolites. Kelly Lake is the only other lake. And Last Chance Lake doesn't have stromatolites, it has phosphates. Because Last Chance Lake is a special lake, but it's not it's not the same kind of special. So Pavilion Lake in Marble Canyon, you can see the beautiful rocks here, various different colors. So real nice, guys. Anyways, guys, that's gonna conclude our Pavilion Lake video. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's really special up here. About 4 hours from Vancouver, guys. So there's no reason not to come here. You know, it's not like it's Stewart or Dease Lake or in the Yukon. It's very accessible from Vancouver, right? Half a day's drive and you're here. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Anybody who's worked for NASA or space stuff, Canadian Space Agency, if you see this video, make a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And Sasquatch Prospector out.